Hi, everybody. Another wonderful Sunday, another busy Sunday here on Commercial Drive. It is car free day outside, and I mean, it's not as busy as Italian day, but it was definitely a little hard to get here, wasn't it?
Hola, hola. Ever. I tell you what, man, I didn't know that it was car-free day here until I got around to the drive, and I'm like, I wonder why traffic is calling. I hope it's, no, Cushy would have told me if it was car-free day.
And then I did, but too late.
But like literally 5 minutes too late. And so we had to run around the back, and I'm parked about 6 blocks from here, and had to run down the street, and there's almost no parking anyway. But you know, whatever, it's car-free day, but it's not weed-free day here at VPMS. What's up, y'all? It's me, Craig X.
So we're basically sitting here. We are smoking weed like always on a Sunday, and we're basically going to recap with you the amazing Cannabis Life Conference that we had the pleasure of attending for the last 2 days. I unfortunately had to skip out Friday because I was so busy here, but Craig, you were, what would I call it, hosting?
Yeah, I was hosting, emceeing the conference. Yeah,
you were, and you did a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you.
So you were there for both of the days, which is super cool.
Yeah, I was there all day Friday and Saturday doing all the hosting and MC duties up on the stage, introducing all the panelists and speakers and filling people in on the breaks and reporting lost iPhones, you know, things like that. Plus,
so do you want to maybe catch me and the viewers up just a little bit on what I missed on the first day?
You bet. I actually, as soon as I get this joint in my hand, I could probably even pull out the actual conference agenda because I do have it in my phone from how it went down. It was a really good time. Let me see. So on Friday, it was a 2-day conference, Cannabis Life Conference. This is the second iteration for 2017. The first one was in Toronto at the Evergreen Brickworks a few months ago, which I hosted as well. Yes. Right. And so on Friday, we started out with a panel on CBD and THC best practices with Dr. Charles Whitfield, Jason Green, Tom Hicks, Adolfo Gonzalez was the moderator, Stephen Gray, Andrea Dobbs from The Village. They also spoke throughout the day as well. Then another panel, dispensary industry leaders panel with Jeeves Sedana, Jeremiah Vandermeer, Julie Nguyen, and Jamie Shaw, as well as myself moderating it. It was a really good panel.
Awesome. I'm so sorry I missed those speakers. A lot of people I like a lot.
That's okay, because the videos are all available for replay on CannabisLifeNetwork.com, and they're also embedded on Pot.tv as well, too. So you can go back and watch all the speakers, all the panels. Yeah, we did a 7-hour live stream on Cannabis Life Network for each day. To me, the highlight of the Friday, though, was the keynote address and then some more panels, Am I Illegal and Exercise and Recovery. But Freddie Prichard, Weed King, Swammy Freddie Prichard came down and made his, if you will, conference debut. Up there, they gave the Weed King a microphone, which a lot of other companies and conferences don't have the balls to do. And he went up there and made an incredibly impassioned speech and ended up getting a standing ovation. It was the only speaker, only presenter for the entire weekend who got a standing O. And I think it's really cool.
I missed that. I'm going to have to go back and watch that.
Watch the impassioned speech from the King. I was fairly adamant about, you guys need to get a hold of Freddie, you need to get a hold of Freddie, you need to get a hold of Freddie. And Freddie was like, I don't know if I'm going to want to go, man. I feel I'm going to be alone and standing by myself, and my voice won't be received. And like I said, he was the only one who got a standing ovation. So, shouts to the King.
That was amazing.
It was a great Friday. Lots of cool panels. Rob Laurie was there, and Dana Larson was on some panels.
I did see Dana speak. I didn't get to see Rob speak because he was Friday.
Yes.
But I did get to see Dana speak.
On Saturday,
and I actually got a little clip of that. So I might as well as just play that really quickly for you guys so you can see that. We'll finish smoking or rolling and start smoking this joint, and then we'll come back.
Talk about some of the other speakers as well, too. Jody was there, and a few more, couple good surprises. Yes, so let's roll that, and then while I'm rolling this, and we'll roll.
You'll roll with the punches,
right?
And in the 1800s in Canada, it was really in many ways a golden age of cannabis. And when Canada became a country 150 years ago, cannabis was normal and widespread. It was still being understood, it's still being developed, but at that time in the mid-1800s, cannabis hemp was being grown in every province in the country, and the government was investing in hemp mills and hemp technology, and it was a big part of the Canadian industry. And hemp medicine also was widely used all across Canada. It was advertised and discussed in medical journals and other publications on a regular basis. A lot of Canadians were using cannabis, mostly in tinctures and extracts, but they were smoking it as well. Cannabis cigarettes, pre-rolled, were widely available in pharmacies all across the country and used to treat many of the same ailments that we're using cannabis for today. And so it's something that I think is, when we look at cannabis prohibition now, and we look at how things are now, it feels normal to us that cannabis is illegal, and it feels like this is sort of the way it's always been, and that legalization is some strange new adventure that we're embarking on, or that is a change from the normality. But really, if you look at the broader scope of history, you see that cannabis prohibition, that's what's abnormal. That's the policy that, yeah, it's been around for 100 years, but it's really, that's the policy that is strange and unusual, and that has been such a failure over the past century in terms of accomplishing its goals of stopping people from using cannabis and the other substances. And I also think it's important for us to remember at these cannabis conferences and as cannabis activists whose lives are maybe largely focused on this single plant, that the war on drugs is about a lot more than just cannabis, a lot more. And sometimes I see cannabis people talking and saying, yeah, we got to legalize cannabis so that we can crack down on all those meth heads and all those junkies and really deal with those people in the right way. But we don't deserve that because cannabis is harmless and we're not hurting anybody, and cannabis is a wonderful medicine, so it's different from those other really dangerous bad drugs. And I think that's a very harmful way of looking at it, and a very non-productive way of looking at these things. So when you look at the origins of cannabis prohibition and the drug war, it's all tied into opium prohibition. And that was really where our drug war began. And we know that cannabis prohibition was born out of ignorance and racism and propaganda against this wonderful plant, but it's exactly the same way that opium prohibition began as well. It's the same way that coca prohibition began, and that the prohibition against psychedelics and both the plant medicines and things like LSD and MDMA, all of these come from the same base, the same idea that banning substances is the way to protect people, that the only allowable substances are alcohol and tobacco, which by any measure, especially alcohol, is far more dangerous than all the substances that I previously mentioned. And that's really the part we should be aiming at, the heart of this. And to me, I love cannabis. I don't use other substances on a regular basis. I use cannabis every day. I think it's the world's greatest plant. But to me, this is about much more than just cannabis. And ending the prohibition of cannabis is the first step in undoing this terrible policy and this terrible knot that we got ourselves into a century ago when in Canada and America and many countries around the world we launched this disastrous war on drugs. And it was so much an effort to eliminate certain racial groups, to discriminate against Chinese, against blacks, against Mexicans, against other people. And it's evolved into something more than that, but that's still what's there at the root of this conflict. And it's not just about Canada as well. This is a global war on drugs. The war on drugs is a very real global conflict with troops fighting and killing people to keep these plant medicines out of our country. And it's hard to see how beneficial these things can be when all you're seeing of opiates is a dirty needle or somebody overdosing on pharmaceuticals, or where all you see of the wonderful coca leaf is the impure cocaine and people injecting cocaine and making terrible decisions doing that. But at their root, these substances are very beneficial, very good for human health. They have thousands of years of social, cultural, religious, spiritual use. The coca leaf is an incredibly beneficial plant medicine, and the opium poppy is also a wonderful plant medicine that should be more widely available. And psilocybin mushrooms and peyote and other psychedelic plants, ironically, that are also grouped together with other drugs. But for many people, these substances can help them deal with the issues they have when they use other substances, can help them to heal themselves and deal with maybe the internal issues that drive them to obsessive compulsive use of some substances. And so, I was supposed to talk about the history of cannabis, but to me it's about more than that. We look at what's happening now with our overdose crisis and how people are freaking out about fentanyl, but this has actually been a regular part of our life for many, many years. And every decade, since we first banned opium in 1908, we've seen more drug overdose from opium than the decade before. Not every year, but every decade they've gone up. There was virtually nobody dying of opium overdoses or opiate overdoses when opium was legal. Sure, smoking opium can be a bad habit, and some people can smoke too much opium and get into it too much, but they don't die of overdoses when you're smoking opium. It's incredibly rare. And every decade since then, when I first became an activist and first started getting into this in the early 1990s, we were in the middle of an opiate overdose crisis, and it was heroin overdoses. And the chief coroner of British Columbia, a man named Vince King, did a big study and had all these hearings and put out a big report and made all kinds of recommendations, and it was a big crisis. And yeah, things lowered after that, and that did help get the insight open all those deaths. But ultimately, it leveled out to still a very high level of deaths happening. It was like, okay, it's not as high as it was before, so now we're okay. And of course, the chief coroner made all these recommendations, and the vast majority were not made. And those recommendations included legalizing cannabis, I might add, because he recognized even then that cannabis was part of the equation for helping reduce the harm caused by overdose of opiates and compulsive opiate use. As are psychedelics as well for many people. Ibogaine and peyote and these other substances all can have very positive effects on people who are compulsively using these kind of substances. But the history of the war on drugs and the war on cannabis in Canada, it's a failure if you measure it by saving lives or stopping anybody from using these substances or any positive effects. But in other ways, it's an incredible success. If you want to make profits off of prison stocks or own a privatized prison company, then the war on drugs is an incredible success. If you want to, especially in the U.S., not so much in Canada, eliminate large numbers of people from being able to vote for the rest of their lives because they now have a felony conviction, even though they've done their time. We don't have that in Canada, but in the U.S., certainly the war on drugs is great for gerrymandering and keeping people away from voting and keeping certain groups in power. And if you are part of the military-industrial complex, the war on drugs is a massive success because the war on drugs drives conflict and death and violence all around the world, from Afghanistan, where the opium is so prevalent, to South America, where the war on coca cartels and coca, to Mexico, where a place where some areas have incredible violence, and where we are starting to see this come to our own country as well, and we will the longer we pursue this terrible strategy. So I hope that we recognize that we are writing the history of cannabis in Canada now, and that what's happening now is very historic and very important for the story that we've been telling, because it might feel like legalization of cannabis is a done deal, we have momentum on our side, and we're going to make this happen, and now it's just a matter of who's going to cash in and how we're going to profit on this. But I tell you, we are many years away from even seeing cannabis beginning to be normalized in Canada and around the world the way it should be. And we are decades away from really ending this terrible war on drugs that is, in many ways, so much harmful than just the war on cannabis. We focus on cannabis because so many more people choose to use cannabis, and that's a rational decision because cannabis is wonderful and incredibly safe compared to pretty much any other substance you might choose to use. But in reality, I sometimes think that we should be legalizing opiates should really be the first thing we're talking about, because people are dying every single day, every single hour almost, because of this happening with opiate prohibition. In many ways, that is the more important issue. Legalization should come from a place of an honest acknowledgement of the war on cannabis and the greater war on drugs never served any good purpose ever. It wasn't a well-intentioned mistake. It wasn't something that we could noble experiment of some kind. It was a racist, ignorant, stupid thing to do. We're all worse off for the last 100 years of having these terrible policies in place. They've resulted in the deaths of thousands and thousands of Canadians and literally millions of people all around the world. They've contributed to the spread of death and disease everywhere on earth. They've been enacted. And it's time we apologize and move on from that. Legalization needs to begin with an apology and a recognition of those harms. Then it will come from the right place. Then the policies that flow out of that understanding will be the right kind of policies. But it will then also take an acknowledgement that not only should cannabis be legalized, and not only is that part of the solution, but that the same arguments that apply to cannabis legalization apply 100-fold to other substances. And in fact, the more dangerous something is, the more we need to regulate and control and have some kind of oversight on that. And that is really the crux of this. And that the legalization we're getting, I think it's a wonderful step forward. There's certainly a lot of flaws in there, but I would vote for it if it was on the ballot. Yeah, I see the clock here, I'm okay. But I think that we have to acknowledge this is bigger than that. This is bigger than whose stocks are going to make the most money. It's bigger than which LP is going to cash in. It's bigger even than dispensaries and what's happening. This is a global conflict. And what we do here in Canada, and especially here in Vancouver, has impacts all around the world. People are looking to us for leadership. We are a country, a small country in many ways, but we are also a very influential country because we are right next to the USA. And when Canada legalizes marijuana, and we are beginning to put in other policies of harm reduction, policies of more supervised injection sites, starting to prescribe heroin, some of these small steps forward that can begin to make some real change. But I tell you, what we do here with groups like this all across the country is not only having an impact in Canada, it will have an influence all around the world. And that when we finally really begin to end the war on drugs, something that I still think is a few decades away, the influence of that will be such a positive change on our planet and our culture in ways that we cannot even imagine. And I firmly believe that future generations will look back upon this century of prohibition as one of the dumbest policies ever introduced in the history of the planet. And that we will look back on it with shame and with happiness that we move past that, and that is no longer the way things are. So that's what I'm working towards, and that's really what I believe in, and I hope that we'll all keep that in mind as we enjoy and celebrate and work towards legalization of cannabis. Thank you very much for having me here.
Cool, hey?
Yeah, that was long, but really good. I felt like it was very important to play that. I liked what he had to say. I think everything he had to say about the opioids and all of that stuff. Well, he kind of moved over to the opioids, but I think that it was much needed. I think it was needed to be heard.
Yeah.
And it kind of did intertwine a little bit with that. And just touching base on that super really quickly, I did want to remind everyone about the cannabis substitution project that is going on, sponsored by Vandu and Overdose Prevention Society.
Shout out to Neil Magnuson and the team for putting all that on and working their butts off.
So there's a little pamphlet now out there with testimonials, what their mission is. Basically, we want to get free cannabis, free edibles to everyone who's recovering or dealing with a drug addiction. That's basically what it is. So there's donation box out at different dispensaries. If you don't know where one is, look it up. Try to get a contact with Neil. There's one here at the VPMS that you can always come and donate to. And yeah, I think that's really important. So
all this stuff is important that we're doing, the knowledge and sharing the information.
100%.
And we saw some really cool things happen at the conference that were important, and a lot of panels and speakers and asking the feedback from the folks who were in attendance. They thought it was really great to have the opportunity to not only connect with some producers and stuff, but some like doctors and scientists and lawyers and researchers and
veterinarians.
All these different people, all these different people who can answer some of the questions, help destigmatize some of the myths and the untruths. And of course, as the MC and the host of the event, I got to meet all these people, talk to them, hear all their stories, help moderate some of the panels, work some of the incredible questions from the crowd in the room. It was a great conference. This is now the second one that they've done this year, and I can see the evolution from the Toronto one to here. I can also see it was a similar conference last year, slightly different, at the Bayshore, the Cannabis Hemp Conference, slightly different organizing team. But anyway, even from that to this year, like I'm starting to see a difference in a number of the conferences. There's the super business to business ones. There's like those heavy industry ones where it's packaging and machinists and all B2B. Then there's the like, hey, it's a festival with a bunch of hippies and we're smoking weed everywhere, like the 420s and the Emerald Cups and all that stuff. And then you've got something like this, is kind of like an entry level. There's an LP, and there's a glass maker, and there's a head shop, and there's a concentrate maker, and there's a pen, and there's a doctor, and a little bit of
gathering of everything, which I found amazing.
A nice slice from across the community, like a little bit of everything. So if you were a reasonably entry-level consumer or new to the cannabis space, you could totally come to a conference like this and not only hear some great speakers and some panelists and meet a lot of different vendors and exhibitors, but see some weed and get different opinions on cannabis and hear from one side of the story to the other, for this person next, and make your own decision for yourself, because cannabis is such a personal journey anyway.
And maybe, and if they weren't around you, not inhaling smoke, which was also super cool. I found that cool. But like, I'm all for smoking wherever the hell you want. Like, 100%. KushQueen is all for that. But I do find it cool that that we can put together an event like this and have a variety of all these different people from the community and be okay with the not smoking. Like, none of us were like, you can't smoke, blah, blah, blah. And so it made it okay for children to walk around and have a look, because a lot of children need CBD, pets to walk around, and some people who are just trying to, they've got their foot in the door and they're just trying to. But if they were to open the door and all this cloud of smoke was to come out, they're like, you know what? I'm not into it. I'm not going to check it out. I'm not even going to give it a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You get the opportunity to come in there. Now, me as a person, I would love to be chiefing through the whole thing, because that's just who I am, joint hanging out the whole time.
Right? Me too.
But we've seen at some of the other conferences, they barely allow for any cannabis consumption, not even just inside the building. Because let's face it, you can't smoke cigarettes at a wedding in the ballroom, so why could you smoke weed in the ballroom of the hotel either? It'd be nice. But I get it. Now, I saw some people vaping on some pens, myself included. I also saw this one jackass who thought he was somebody, had a camera crew, and he was lighting joints every once in a while during camera breaks. I don't know. Maybe he thought he was a host or something. Maybe I smoked a couple joints inside there, but they were just stunt prop joints, I swear.
These entitled men.
Who does he think they are?
Who do they think they are?
But what was really cool is the Western Bayshore was good about this, because other places, no, off the site, down the block, we don't want this around here.
We were smoking right out front doors.
They were like, we'd rather, instead of right the front door, could you just like step just across over to here to that little lagoony area with the trees and the shade? You'll probably enjoy it much better. And we did, and it was nicer, and people went over there, and they had zero problems with it, and there was no complaints, there was no nothing. I saw at one point, like, the hotel staff walking through while I was doing a break, the little earpiece, and like, oh, security, they found out there's cannabis in here, and they're like, like, no problems. There was cannabis being sold, there was on display, and at some of these events and some of these venues, they're like, no, get it off the table, we don't even want it out. So shouts to the Bayshore for letting the company come in to be able to put on the event, the company for doing the event, the Cambridge House
really
and Cannabis Life Network are covered it all for the Cannabis Life Conference, of course. But yeah, at the Toronto event, unfortunately, the venue said, sure, weed's going to be just fine. And then we showed up, they're like, weed's not fine. And we were like, then why'd you take the booking? Yeah, why'd you take the booking?
So stupid.
This Bayshore was like, hey, we'll get you your sign for your alternative smoking zone, and we'll put it just 10 feet that way, and that's the only concession we're going to ask. And you know what? That's pretty fair, which is why people weren't consuming. It was such a nice day out, and literally just walk right out the door, 10, 15 feet, and you're smoking. No one had a problem with it.
And there was a Starbucks in the lobby. I was so happy.
And there was pre-rolled joints from Cannabis Culture.
Yes.
And
Cannabis Culture was there. It was really cool to see Cannabis Culture there. Who was working the tent?
Well, I saw
What's his name?
Dollface. I saw Dollface on the first day.
Zane on the second day, that's right. And Dollface on the first day.
Right. Shouts to the whole crew coming through. I saw Bree Fisher down there as well, too. Lots of folks in the place. Of course, Boss Lissa was there, too.
Yeah, a lot of familiar faces. It was cool. I got to spend the day with Dominique
and
Boss Lissa, and we ran around and took footage and stuff. It was really, really cool.
You get any more footage? Because I was filming, too. I did 7 hours of live stream both days.
I did lots of footage. Speaking of the cute little Dominique, I actually have a cute little clip of me and her coming to speak to you.
Let's see it then.
And honestly, it's adorable, so we have to play this.
Yep.
She's so cute. I love her.
We'll see my interview with you later, but let's see this for now.
Big show. Oh, yeah, I got a pretty quick show. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
See ya. Okay. Oh, Mike's busy. Let's run. I don't got time for
But now I'm really lucky. I'm about to be joined on this side and this side. Maybe, yeah.
Do you want me to go on this side?
I really do, because this way I feel more
Would you like to be in
balanced.
the middle? Yes.
Kind of. Hey, ladies.
Hello. We love Greg.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only KushQueen, KushQueen, with 3 E's and a 420 at the end.
That's correct.
And this is Dominique Huey, the littlest person in the room. She was
And the cutest.
right? She's like a little elf. It's so funny. Danielle was just saying, I think everybody in the room is 19. And I said, it's just Danielle. She's short. She's funny.
Yeah, no, like little 21.
That's right.
Yeah.
Killing it. Having fun. Having fun in the Cannabis Life Conference, ladies.
I'm having a blast. This is amazing. I'm getting to talk to so many different people, meet so many people, see so many new, interesting things that I haven't even seen yet. So I thought that was cool.
And you come to fair bit of conferences. I see you working at a number of the booths. I think I've seen you at the fan booth before and all sorts of different things.
Yeah, but today I'm here doing my own marketing on my Dominique TV on media today. So it was really interesting. I got to be on the other side, got to catch all the panels for once, and I got to watch Jody's speech too. Like take a moment to just say how she moves the market. Every time. I get goosebumps when you hear Jody's speech. It's one of the most amazing things. And then being able to catch her outside and see her with her fun, bubbly, like energy. It's always good. It's like a little family. And there's so many new people who are bringing like amazing, innovative ideas.
There's so many people.
It's true. I've had so many people. I'm very interested.
Yeah, just walk around. Oh my God, it's doing it. When I get on your show, you're like,
People know who I am. And it's such an honor, honestly. They're like, I watch you on my TV, KushQueen. And I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea who you are. Hi. It's so nice to meet you.
this is what happens when you go blah, 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 with the microphone in front of a camera.
You're surprised when people say that.
Well, of course, the new show is the Royal Hour of but you've been now it's called right here, one of its names, All the Albums.
That's right, yeah, I've been doing that for many years. And it's really fun. It's actually what made me want to spread my wings into my own show. So without that, I don't think I would be here.
You are literally at all the rallies, you're on the Pot TVs a lot, you're a little figure in the community yourself as well. Thanks for everything.
Of course, I love doing it. And you know, it's the reason I do it is because I have a hearing problem. And doctors don't take me seriously. And some other people, they don't really take me seriously. And of course, the camera messaging you, like I said, it's like a family. So of course, I'm going to stick up for my family. So when the raids happened, I did a photo shoot actually. I organized, I did a creative director, and I put together a whole photo shoot for Stop. You've got Jada Larson, government for it, and yeah, and then always whenever I support this Kushi over here,
We're all a big family.
And then I do stuff for Omni Flower as well. It's a CBD-based company, and I've been.
I would never say so. I checked out some of their CBDs the other day. They were actually pretty good. I had no problems with them at all.
No, it's clean. It's not like some of the other stuff that people talk to me about today in conferences. We have to be careful about not getting the exported stuff from China or the Eastern Europe because of all the toxins that are actually into the soil. So you have to make sure that you know where the CBD source is coming from. So I can strongly support
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Expert
Absolutely.
advice right from Dominique there. And what's coming? Are we going to see people go or are you going to involve in
Well, it's basically going to be a nice little wrap up of what's happening here today. And then just, the rest of the company I know. That's all I'm going to say. Because you're already seeing me here today, so you already know I'm going to talk about it.
For sure. We'll make sure you're tuning in every Sunday at 2 o'clock on Pot.tv. Of course, Wednesdays at 4 o'clock on Pot.tv.
That's right.
The Pot TV YouTube page, the Cannabis Culture Facebook pages. We're here, of course, right now on the Cannabis Life Network. I like to dip around, cross in all platforms, all different markets and shit. And it's great to be able to talk to you lovely ladies. So thank you very much for coming through. And I also want to say thanks to Boss Lissa for making this experience.
Hey, shouts to Boss Alyssa for getting the video. And yes, shouts to Cannabis Life Network for having me in there and doing the stream. So
They're really good at what they do.
Yeah, they are.
I love all the crewmen. They're so friendly and so nice.
we were bouncing back and forth from speakers and panels to the few commercials and stuff to some little trade show floor videos to interviews with me and people like yourself. And who else we got? We got Jody and Jer in there. We got Mark Gordon, Dave Hepburn. We got a bunch of the exhibitors in the place to be. We also got the Weed King, Swami Freddie Prichard, to come through. I don't remember if I got him before or after his big speech, but we did get him. And of course, Freddie had, I think, the presentation or the speech of the event, certainly of the Friday. Jody's killed it as well, too, on Saturday. But Freddie was the only one to get a standing ovation at the event, too. Now, there was a little stealing of the show perhaps later on Saturday. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, Freddie definitely was one of my favorite highlights of the moment, especially considering I worked so hard to insist that he go and that they get him, and he went there, and he wasn't sure he was going to fit in. And when he ended up leaving after the most empowered speech there was, he like I said, got standing ovation. So he was like, "Wow, I guess I do resonate."
Good. Yeah,
I felt good. He
absolutely.
felt good. When I saw the Georgia Straits and speech ends, crowd erupts in applause, I damn near got a little tear in my eye.
Aww. Well, you know what? I actually didn't get to catch Freddie's speech.
That's okay.
So
Cannabis Life Network caught it.
Yeah, so I actually just snagged that from them so that I could play it on my show because I know they're cool with that.
Yeah.
And so we'll play that for you, and I'm actually going to watch myself because I'm very intrigued. So here's Freddie's speech. It's about 20 minutes long, so spark up your doopies.
It's a good one.
Usually takes them 4 hours to get this message out on a Sunday afternoon on YouTube, which you can check out 4 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, a good friend of mine, the Weed King, Swammy Freddie Prichard.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out to the Cannabis Life Network. I guess I only got 20 minutes, so I'll try to wrap it up. My message to a lot of the people that are in here. What I've been doing, been a cannabis activist for nearly 20 years. And I don't got a product, I'm not selling you widgets, I don't got a business, and I don't run a dispensary. I'm a Canadian cannabis activist. And this all started to stop prison for pot, to stop clogging courts, to stop wasting taxpayers' dollars, and generally to stop ruining lives. And that's exactly what the laws against cannabis have done in this country. For generations, they've pounded down on us, put us in prison for pot. That's a pretty big one. You know, there's no victim, there's no crime. You know, some people, they do bad crimes, so they deserve to be there. And when you're in there, you're supposed to become remorseful and accept responsibility for your crimes because you've had victims. And then when you're a pothead and you sit there and you count the cracks on the walls and you've had no victims, and in my case, I ran a dispensary, started a dispensary in 2001, was busted by the Windsor Police Department. And in my case, it's a little hard to figure out why you're doing time when you actually help people. You know, and what we've done all these years is break the law. We've enacted our civil disobedience, we've protested, we've marched. And our message has been clear. The prison for pot has to end. The wasted taxpayers' dollars, $2.4 billion a year. In just 10 years, that's about $25–30 billion. I, for one, as a Canadian, not just a pothead, and I'm proud to be a pothead, but, you know, to anybody, our schools are getting cut, our hospitals are getting cut. I, for one, as a Canadian, believe that money could be spent elsewhere. And I mean, everybody is probably wondering, well, you know, what's he talking about? They're going to legalize. And the one thing I do on my show every week, I'm an investigative reporter. I study and read everything that happened in Canada this last week on cannabis, and I report it every week on my show. And 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, a lot of people were jumping on board with Trudeau and the Liberals and their plans to legalization with a full production monopoly takeover by the large producers. And on their website, well, everybody was voting Liberals, on their website platform, www.liberal.ca/realchange/marijuana, it was very clear before he was even elected. We were going to make stricter, harsher rules to punish more severely. That's very clear in a nutshell what they're going to do. We're going to punish more severely those who sell it to children, those who operate a motor vehicle, and anybody who sells outside of their strict regulatory framework. So, Liberals get voted in. Here we have this legalization coming, and I don't know how many of you have read the Cannabis Act in full, C-45. How about the Impaired Driving Changes Act, C-46? Are you up on S-230? That puts handheld test units in the hands of all our police officers and the nanograms of 5 and under? I don't see a lot of hands up. So, in a nutshell, they're going to exactly do that. They're taking some of the stuff out of the Controlled Substances and Drug Act, and bam, they're putting it in a Cannabis Act with harsher, stricter rules and regulations, and in some cases up to an indictment of 14 years. Media's been talking about how if you sell to kids, you can get up to 14 years. Well, you know, none of us sell to kids now, but it doesn't just include kids. It can sell to anybody. But my point and my message is clear. Does the prison per pot end? Does the clogged courts stop? The waste of taxpayers' dollars. One of the things on my show I've been saying from the long time about Colorado and in their legal regimes over there, that their legal tax dollars are going to fund prison for pot. And I said the same thing here with our Canadian laws. Wouldn't it surprise anybody that the first week of June that just passed by, Governor Heinluker over in Colorado has taken $6 million of the legal tax dollars to fight black market activity. They busted a major ring there 2 weeks ago. Expert Joint shared it on his live show. 73 people got busted up in a trafficking ring. If you search Google in Colorado, bust, arrests, seizures, it's riddled with people going down and arrested. That's exactly what they're doing here, folks. They're going to make legal weed and illegal weed. They're calling it licit and illicit. Anybody outside of their framework is going to suffer. And that's who I am standing here representing, my cannabis community. The people that we broke the laws for to figure out about this plant. We figured out it cures cancer, and we're going to be punished more severely. I've got a problem with that. How does it feel to the people that are LPs and involved in this legal regime and going to make money? How does it feel to know that your tax dollars are going to fund prison for pot for the same thing you're doing? This war's not over. And on Cannabis Day, I was proud to speak there, and I'm proud that every single one of my Canadian cannabis activists that spoke that day, I'm extremely proud that we're all on board. We know this is fake legalization. We know this. They're only going to make legal weed LP large producers supplied. I can respect the people that were just up here talking about dispensaries. One of the things on my show I do is follow along with all the dispensary raids we've had in Canada since Trudeau took power 18 months ago, and I'm up to 223. So, and in this last year, from now until July, the rest of the dispensaries are planning to be taken out. They did Project Lincoln a year ago where they hit 43 in one day. Then they followed that with Project Claudia, or Project Gator, that pounded down on all the cannabis culture locations. And 2 weeks ago, they just initiated Project Lincoln, which took down all of the canna clinics in Toronto, 7 of them, as well as 12 residences, 6 of them here in Vancouver. There's a riddled area inside of the Cannabis Act where they propose to give inspectors new rights and powers the same as police. Carrie Jang here in Vancouver said over this 4 plants that anybody's going to be allowed to grow, you're going to have it licensed and registered, which comes along with fees, which comes along with inspections. My point is, I don't think a lot of people are thinking about the bottom line anymore, and I'm here to let, I don't feel my crowd a lot, because I talk to stoners, I talk to patients, I talk to people that get high, and here I know there's a lot of business. And with the large monopoly takeover, I don't want to see any more prison for pot. I don't want to see these clogged courts. I want to see our products involved. Our growers, our trimmers, our concentrate makers of products that the LPs have no intention and the federal government have no intentions of legalizing. They're going to legalize flowers. What about who dabs in here? Who dabs? Who presses rosin? Who knows what I'm talking about? Who presses rosin? There's multiple rosin culture, dab culture, dry sifters, hash makers, concentrate makers, flower maker, topical makers. A lot of them are out there. And they're not expected to be included. So are they all quitting? Generations of prohibition, and this has been created from that? Stricter, harsher rules or regulations going to take it away? Are all my brothers and sisters who are consumers now of cannabis, you're just going to start buying the large producer weed? So this is a fake legalization. This is worse. In a lot of cases in the Cannabis Act, you can suffer up to an indictment of 14 years. For a plant, folks. 14 years. Is that legal weed when a large producer monopoly is openly selling it and active on the stock market? Is that legal weed? No, it's not to me. And then what am I supposed to do after 20 years of speaking out against the laws against cannabis? And now that it's legal and all that's happening, is my job done? Is it over? No. And that's my point. Without us included in this legalized cannabis coming, without all of our hundreds and hundreds of products included, this is a failure. And this is not going to work. And there's many of my fine cannabis activists that are here at this conference today that reiterate a lot of the same things that I'm saying. So I'd like to thank Cannabis Life Conference for allowing the One Man Smoke Show to have their voice here. I really appreciate that because they do indeed bring the voice of everybody to this conference. There's a voice from every part. And I want people to take my message home with them. I want my people to share that. What kind of legalization is that? What kind of what kind of freedom, liberty, justice for a plant that we fought for? No victim, no crime. The things we chanted in marches. The Million Marijuana March every single year. We need to be included, and the biggest one is the distance and the disassociation with the liberal government and who we are. If anybody in here has been watching the House of Commons when they debated this bill, there won't be nothing discussed about the bill now until the summer break's over, but when they were doing the second reading, when they talk about cannabis, the disassociation with us is clear. They don't have us at the table. They're not listening to us. They don't even know what a dab is. So I hope you guys understand my message. And I talk this kind of stuff for 2 years. I've been going off about this. These par se limits that are coming, they want to change on Bill C-46. They want to change it so they don't need probable cause to test you now. They just have to suspect it. Then they want to have a 2 to 5 nanogram punishment and then an over 5 nanogram, which is absolutely insane. Anybody smoking a joint here today is going to have a saliva positive test of over 5 nanograms tomorrow. And if you're a chronic, it'll stay in your saliva for up to a week. And of course, that's different with people and their metabolism and how cannabis works within their body, but that's a relative average. And I've been talking a lot about how this is just going to be horrendous on us. As cannabis people, it makes it so medical patients can't even drive if this all gets passed through. So I just encourage everybody to become educated. Listen to your cannabis activists. Read Bill C-45. Read Bill C-46 in its entirety and as well as S-230. Get caught up on what this government's trying to do. Government's trying to take over full control of all of our cannabis. It's going to be the only legal supply. And I'm telling you, when it comes down the pipeline, there aren't going to be a lot of you in here that like it. I worked in depth with Cannabis Life Network and Budzilla, and we tested 21 LP samples from 6 different large producers, and we had horrific results. We sat on camera and told everybody how this is full of chemicals. This is stuff from Organigram, full of chemicals. Was burning black ash. It actually sparked up in the joint. Wouldn't it surprise everybody that 6 months later, that exact weed was recalled from myclobutol? There's now 2 class action lawsuits against Organigram. The veterans of this country got sick, and they're lining to put another class action lawsuit against Organigram. And as well on my show, I read the six patients that are involved with the class action lawsuit that got very sick by the approved sprayed. There's 17 approved sprays to be allowed to be sprayed on the Health Canada cannabis. And they were using illegal sprays, a company that claimed to be 100% organic. But, you know, if that's what they're feeding patients in this country. Globe and Mail did a survey of 1,500 patients, and only 17% of them trust their large producer. So we got a whole bunch of patients that don't. And I'm a very big advocate for patients, and I'm a very, very big advocate for quality cannabis that they should be having. And every menu, in my opinion, on the large producer is disgusting with 5.4% THC and 6.6% THC. I'm sorry, I've been around this. I've been around patients for 20 years. And I know you're not getting off opiates or big pharmaceuticals or any kind of fentanyl on a 5% THC. They need quality cannabis, and they need it at an affordable price. A price is a whole other scheme that, Med Relief is offering strain for $17.50 a gram. It's $490 an ounce to a patient. It's absolutely ridiculous. And my point on this, though, is if that kind of weed is pushed on our patients in this country, you just wait. You see it come down the pipeline. You walk into the retail store. I'd like to see B walk into the retail store and get yourself some 5.6% THC. See if that'll move you off BC bud anytime soon. We know our cannabis. We're connoisseurs, we're growers, we're trimmers, we're concentrate makers. There's tens of thousands of us pushing a $7 billion a year industry. Where the hell do you think we're all going? There's not going to be any cookies. There's not going to be any gummy bears. There's not going to be any dabs. There's not going to be any butter, shatter, waxes, rosin. Where do you think we're going to get it? And this was all created out of prohibition. Stricter, harsher rules and regulations is just more wasted taxpayers' dollars, and Bill C-45 strictly says they're going to spend more money on surveillance, prevention, monitoring, and enforcement. It's absolutely ridiculous. I want this drug war to end against a plant. I want people to stop going to prison for pot. My message is clear. This is what us activists. There was no medical marijuana in Canada 20 years ago. We didn't march. We all marched for the same thing. The prison for pot, the clogged courts, the wasted taxpayers' dollars, and ruining lives. Send kids and young people for an ounce of weed. And then, your whole life's ruined. You can't go out of country. You're denied jobs. Like, all that has to end, doesn't it? Isn't that what legalization is? Isn't that free in the weed? So I'd like everybody to think, well, this big LP steamroller comes piping down the pipe on us. We're not going anywhere. We were created out of prohibition. There's way too many of us. We're pushing something bigger than the government can take over. And when a lot of people try out this LP weed, they're not going to like it. But we're a lot stronger than a lot of people think they are. And if you guys have been listening to mainstream media, that's exactly one of their biggest intentions. They call us gangsters, goons, and bandits. And they want to wipe out the black market. And they want to wipe it out from criminals. Well, we're not criminals. We're mom and pa grow-ops. We're trimmers. We're growers. How many people out there are working with the Hells Angels? How many people down at 420? Anybody go to 420 here in Vancouver? 50,000 people? How about all those products down there? Where was the colors? Because they're not, they're us. Neil Boyd from SFU found out only 5% of the cannabis community is involved with organized crime. In 33 years of smoking, I don't buy from the gangsters. I don't know anybody that's an MMAR grower for patients that's working for the gangsters. It's us. And we wrote a rapology. We generate billions a year. And where do you think that money goes? Money goes right back into the coffers of the municipal, provincial, and federal governments. Every time we spend $1 and we send our kids to school on new shoes, pay for bills, we put it back in. Sales tax is generated off of billions and billions every year, in the multi-millions. We've helped pump up and build this company, this economy. And if anybody doesn't know, it's popular news that many BC communities are thriving. They would not exist if it wasn't for the growing of cannabis, since the mining went to shit and the lumber. So I bring a new side to it. I told you I don't sell you. I'm not selling you anything. I want you guys to take what I tell you home in your hearts and your minds. I want you to think about all your brothers and sisters, and even if it doesn't affect you, the wasting of the taxpayers' dollars is enormous now, and it's just going to get greater. And then the thought makes me vomit, folks, when you think that legal tax dollars in the future, legal marijuana tax dollars, could actually fund putting people and ruining young people's lives by putting people who weren't inside of that regime in prison for pot. So I'm Freddie Prichard, the One Man Smoke Show. Do a YouTube channel every week. Appreciate it if you come on by and support my channel. I thank you for the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Freddie Prichard! Get the fuck up.
Right? Yeah. That was quite something.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
How
Jody,
was it to be there? Experience that.
It was
See
loud.
everyone stand up and.
It was cool. It was really neat, like I said, to have been sort of involved with getting him there. and see him go up and just nail it. Actually, it was sort of surprising. He was a little bit nervous at first. And he's like,
And then he nailed it.
It's a little different doing it in front of all the people as opposed to just in front of the camera.
Right.
But no, he did a great job. It was a very empowered speech and very impassioned. And I think that a lot of people, everybody who was there, really, really attached to it. He got a lot of credibility. He opened a lot of eyes and was able to get his message out, which is what he wants to do. And will do again in an hour and 7 minutes on the One Man Smoke Show.
That's right. Every Sunday at 4 o'clock.
Sunday at 4 p.m. in the One Man Smoke Show on YouTube. And coming soon, Tuesdays on Pod TV.
I was going to say, and coming soon to you on Tuesdays. He will be on Pod TV with the help of the amazing Boss Lissa. Because she, without her, I mean, I wouldn't even be able to do this either. So you're the best, girl. You're the best. So speaking of passionate, emotional, just spontaneous moments, we have quite the story for you guys that we want to talk about. Something amazing happened at the conference yesterday, didn't it?
I've been working on it, following up on that, so it's what put my show post behind, but it's coming. It might be a little late today, but so at the conference, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. I'll give you guys the rundown so you hear the whole story.
We're thirsty, right?
So it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We just put up, one of the speakers went up there. Good, no problem. They're up to do their thing. They got 20 minutes. I go outside to smoke a joint. And within a couple of minutes of being out there, Jay from Top Leaf comes up to me. Shouts to Top Leaf Canada. They come up and say, "Hey, man, did you see this girl over there selling lemonade?" I said, "What girl selling lemonade? Huh? You mean the vendor a couple doors down from Jade Maple, the THC one?" He said, No. There's like this little girl over there with like a brain tumor or some shit, and she's selling lemonade trying to raise money." And I was like, And just a light went off. And I was like, well, I think we could probably help her raise some money. There's a lot of people in this room all at the same time. I wonder, hang on, let me go over there and check. So I go over there and I meet this little spark plug, she's, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, something like that.
Ever fucking cute,
right?
Man.
Her name's Jada.
God.
Jayda. Her name's Jada. And met her mom, Linda, who, single mom, a couple of kids. And this one is to the point where if she falls down one more time and hits her head, she could go into a coma. She got into an accident at school, which triggered off awareness to the fact that she has disappearing white matter disease, I believe is what vanishing white matter disease.
Vanishing white matter disease. And there is no cure? No,
and it's a terminal thing. It's, I think, a form of leukocytopenia. I can't pronounce it, but you watch the replay back. Leukocytopenia. I don't even know. But anyway, part of all that point is her white matter is slowly disintegrating in her brain, and she was out there raising money to not only try and help her treatment and her care, but they've got this old used car that when they bought it, like the back seats were all dirty, or when it was given it, and it was like moldy and stuff. The air conditioning doesn't work, and because of her condition, she can't
handle heat.
Yeah, she's extremely susceptible to heat.
Absolutely.
So they were trying to raise $10,000, and they got a GoFundMe page, and they were trying to anything they can to help with the care and raise money towards. Well, Jada's brother says to Jada's mom, Linda, you should go down to this cannabis conference down there because he's a medical patient who uses card carrying. And he thinks, and he's said to her for more than a year, Mom, I think cannabis, especially CBDs, could help with her condition.
Yes.
And Mom didn't just want to go out and just start buying weed and giving it to the 6, 7, 8-year-old, whatever she was at the time when this all started. I think she's about 10 now. I'm going to say she's 10. She might be 8. She might be 9, but she was cool. And she, I didn't even ask. That's honestly, I didn't even care. It doesn't matter. But Mom says, I've thought about it, and he's insisted, but I wanted to do my research, but I don't know who to talk to. I don't know where to get information from. I've thought about going to dispensaries, but I need higher level care than that. She's one of only, I think, 200 people in the world who has this disorder, and like 2 people in Vancouver, and she's one of the youngest people who has it anywhere, period. It usually comes on a little later in life, but it was triggered in an accident at school in phys ed class where some students bumped into each other, knocked her basically out, gave her a concussion, and due to some lack of poor care, she was actually came out of it having a grand mal seizure, which triggered this. And so immediately upon hearing all this and being the MC and the host and the guy who had the microphone for the stage show,
and being the amazing guy that you are,
whatever, just doing the right thing that needed to be done and having the opportunity to do it, more likely. I said, well, would you guys want to come in and tell your story in here. Because they thought they were just going to come down and sell some lemonade to some thirsty stoners and maybe run into somebody or get a little idea what they could possibly do.
At the least make a couple bucks. Was what
and
they
maybe
were hoping for,
they thought
right?
they thought to make if they could make a couple $100 and maybe meet somebody at the conference or someone on the way out or sell lemonade to someone who could point them in the right direction.
Yeah,
they were happy with that. When I met them, she had $60 in her wallet. Pretty good because they'd already jacked a couple people for $20 glasses of lemonade. Well, it's $2 and they gave them a 20. You know, that kind of thing. And so it was mom and grandma, like a little 85-year-old little charm bracelet little thing holding it up there, tiny little, just this million-year-old, so cute. They're out there doing their thing right at the entrance of the seawall in front of the Westin. So I asked them if they'd like to come out and speak, and then I go talk to the organizers and say, hey, do you mind if these guys come speak? AKA, I'm bringing these people in to speak.
Yes.
And so I brought them in, walked them right up on stage, talked to the speaker, which you want to talk about weed karma and just how strange shit works and how cannabis just makes things happen. The next presenter was Tracy Ryan from Canna Kids talking about a mom's journey from cannabis to healing.
Yes.
Or cancer,
like
healing
how
cancer.
How cool is that?
Right, so
the universe, man.
I tell Tracy that I need to bump her back by about 10 minutes or so I can do this. She says, no problem, hands the card to the mom, basically says, yeah, we got connections right to the Mayo Clinic. We meet Dr. Dave Hepburn, we meet Mara Gordon, we meet, I think it was Rebecca from MediGreen, a handful of people who come through who are all, before we even get up on stage, are like, we'll help with diagnosis, we'll help with consultations, we'll help and see if even cannabis is going to be the right thing for her. Then next thing I know, Green Island Naturals and somebody else step up and say, you can have all the products that you need if you choose to use them. And Mom, if you need a little something for you, because Mom, you're pretty stressed out here. You probably need a little something for you too.
Absolutely.
So we go up there, we go up on stage, do about 10, 12 minutes where we sort of introduce them, explain who they are, and I passed around a tip cup. Which raised a bunch of money. And after that, of course, they met a few more people. We talked to them for CLN. They went back out, sold the rest of the lemonade, and left. We've got a video of it to explain more. Is there? Well, I did, but there's... Okay, well, there is video of it to show. I'd love to show a little clip of it, at least anyway, so you can see her.
Let's play the little clip for sure.
Because there's a bit more to it that's since developed since the end of the speech and the ending of passing the tip cup. So why don't you play that for a second, Lisa, if you've got it ready, and then we'll come back and we're going to run a few minutes over here on Kushy's show just so I can give you guys the rundown on the rest of what happened.
Just a few minutes, though.
I was just outside smoking a joint between the breaks because, you know, it's kind of what...
She's been in her church, she's raising it for her own immediate needs. With her first 17 donors of her GoFundMe.
First of all, can you just say hi and tell us who you are?
Hello, I'm Jada.
Hi, Jada.
This is my song.
So, although I sort of recapped a little bit when Mom's on breath here, what's your medical condition?
Antigen white matter disease.
And what does that mean?
It means my white matter of my brain will get cysty and cold.
And what do they do to fix that? Have you had to have surgeries or anything?
No, there's no cure, and it's terminal and progressive.
Well, that doesn't sound very good.
$2.6 million for research.
I thought maybe a trip to Disneyland. I was going to say that's expensive, but...
Yeah.
And of course, you got to be very careful with what you do. You got to watch what you do, and you can't fall down. You got to be very careful of your head.
Rock climb.
No rock climbing. Well, that goes.
I can't ride a bike, but I got a go-kart that my mom bought me.
With the help?
It was $300.
Lemonade. So she's just a lemonade hucking machine.
Before she raised the lemonade, she raised money for the Eastern Wall for radio collars, for tracking. And I forgot. Since she's been in her church, she's raising it for her own immediate needs. With her first 17 donors of her GoFundMe campaign, I let her choose something that she felt she needed, just for a start, and she chose a Vitamix. She loves fruits and vegetables. She hates the school lunch program. Just to let you guys know, this accident happened in elementary school in PE class. So she collided. There was no instruction in the gym with 30 some odd kids. 2 kids collided. She was knocked unconscious, and instead of phoning paramedics to the gym floor, she came around being combative, they thought. And she was actually having grand mal seizures. They removed her to the nurses' room hoping she'd calm down and didn't call paramedics for 25 minutes. So we did get a critical incident report. We haven't had an apology from our principal or school board, and just had the anniversary on June 3rd, so it's been a year. She had to relearn to walk, talk, hold an iPhone, because she loves making movies, is that she can't cope with stressors. So financial stressors, emotional stressors, the heat. We have to treat infection or like fever very aggressively, a couple degrees below an average fever. And so she came off the stage crying. We never got to talk to Sarah McLaughlin after the show. But she's still in there, and they will support her to grade 12. She can be in music class as this disease progresses. So we're thankful for that support. But other than that, we haven't had any support in society. Like I said, not even a critical incident report. Had a law firm looking into the evidence. We haven't received that yet.
And so you wanted to say something?
Last summer, my mom's car got stolen from a parking lot, and then it was overheating when we found it, and ICBC didn't want to fix it. So my mom took the money and she put it into Moto. But Moto, when I got her, they told her that she couldn't have Moto anymore because my brother lit up a cigarette when he heard I got hurt, and then he called us when I was getting intubated in the ICU, and then they said that we weren't allowed to use Moto anymore. And then some lady that helped us get a Hatchimal for Christmas, that was my favorite thing that I got for Christmas.
Understand.
Was a Hatchimal, and she let us get something for Christmas for me, and then she gave us a car. But then when we picked it up, the back seat was full of mold, like black mold, and no one wanted to clean the mold out for our family. And the car does not have air conditioning, and I cannot be in the heat. So if someone will give us a car, we'll be so happy.
And you've also got the trip coming up to Minnesota as well, too.
We're going to the United Leukodystrophy Foundation Medical Conference. That's where all the white matter doctors and researchers and other families with all leukodystrophies and vanishing white matter, which there's less than 200 in the world. And Jada's the first child in Vancouver, and there's one other young adult who has it, triggered at 21, and she's 29 now.
I forgot again.
Okay, that's fine. So obviously important to raise money. These medical procedures and research is extremely expensive. You guys not only are selling the lemonade out front, we showed for a couple bucks in here for you as well too. So that's like at least 20 bucks. That's at least 500, she says. Well, she counted it that fast. Apparently she's a math whiz too. She's a special child, I can tell. But if people want to continue to give more or do more, do you not have a GoFundMe page or something as well?
Help Jada live life to the fullest, and it's JAYDA.
Cannabis Community, Cannabis Life Conference, to see how cannabis works in funny ways. You were sent down here to see if you could find some information. The first person who ran into you handed you a card and said, here, we're connected to the Mayo Clinic. We'll see what we can do to help. We got Charles Whitfield, the place to be. I've seen Dave Hepburn. We got medical people in the building. I said, cannabis came to you. Anything we can do to help. Ladies and gentlemen, help Jada live life to the fullest. Put your hands together. Please support her. Thank you so much for coming here. And after the speakers, go get some lemonade, okay? So yeah.
So sweet of you.
I mean, it was the right thing to do.
It was the right thing to do. You brought light to that. I honestly, truly believe the universe. I don't think, not to say no one else is as kind as that, but I don't think anybody else was going to do that. And if it wasn't for you, she wouldn't have been brought into there. She wouldn't have been put on the stage. And she wouldn't have raised how much money?
Well, if it wasn't for me bringing her on stage, but if her mom didn't bring her down, if her brother didn't tell her, if didn't consume cannabis, if the Cannabis Life Conference wasn't happening, it wouldn't have been there. The cannabis community stepped up. Weed works in strange ways, and to literally bring it up with the next person coming up being Canna Kids. She's like, I can actually help you to some, or help you get the information you need and the knowledge and the exposure and meet the contacts. We got everybody. She met everybody.
Perfect.
That cup came back with $1,600 in it.
From the room.
And people were like, sorry, I don't have more on me. I didn't even get lemonade, but she got 30 of my dollars because that's all was on it. I was going to give her a joint, but I figured that probably wasn't cool at that point. But like I said, multiple companies have now stepped up, including Top Leaf, Green Island Naturals, another, as well as we're another dispensary, so I hate to reference another dispensary.
It's okay.
But
we
Dory,
appreciate other people.
Yeah,
and their love for people.
And as well as not just some of the medical professionals like Mara Gordon from Aunt Zelda's, who's going to give her all the consultations she needs and like initial consults so they can find out if cannabis has worked and then what sort of dosage and what methodology and
what needs.
What delivery she should look at and all of that stuff as well as potential products if they're going to work for them and they choose to accept them. That's her choice. She doesn't even know if she's going to use. And we were like, that's okay. But that's the great thing about the cannabis community. If you're here and you smoke cannabis, we're here for you. But if you need us and you don't smoke cannabis, but you still need help, we're still here for you, right?
Absolutely.
So the cannabis community stepped up large, and it's sort of spiraled a little bit from there. So in a nice move to sort of kick it off, they sort of resonated with Dory and Tim from the dispensary.
Right.
Good people for they've done a lot for the community, and they're known for helping out. So that's so good for them. And they, not that a lot of other dispensaries don't get me wrong, but they do have a good reputation for that generally. And they seem to hit it off and connect with Mom, and they spent quite a bit of time talking. So by the end of it, it's all said and done. I find out that one of Jada's dreams is to go spend a night in a hotel and swim in the pool and do all that stuff. So they went ahead. Yeah, right, a little staycation.
We think alike.
So they decided to go ahead and get her 2 nights in a hotel and a limo ride and swimsuits and that sort of stuff so they can do all this.
She deserves that.
Yeah, and they also then decided to match the $1,600, which was pretty cool. Because now she's got $3,200 in free products and all this medical advice she could need, and the nights in the hotel. And then they also said, and we're going to make sure that they go ahead and they get the car that they need as well too. Whether we got to help with payments or whatever, we're going to figure that out. But we're going to make sure they get that car that they need as well.
And that's important.
Which is massive because she can't roll around in the heat. And I saw the car.
She can't be on transit.
It's a little.
She can't be walking in the heat.
No, and she can't walk very well. I actually watched her try and sit down, and she missed the chair.
Yeah.
And there was no way it was a plant because she didn't know I was watching. But then the folks from Top Leaf decided, well, we're just going to go ahead and match that $1,600 as well too. So now she's up to $4,800, which is really cool.
Oh, that makes me so happy. All in like a matter.
It was in 3 hours.
3 hours.
In 3 hours, we raised $5,000 and got her all the medical advice and all the products she could need, just from showing up and being.
That makes my heart so happy.
And then the Georgia Straight was like, "Wow, that's an incredible story. We're going to write an article about it." Daily Hive was in the room as well too. I went and did a little bit of a Twitter tirade to explain the whole story out today. It's been shared and retweeted quite a bit. Please go and spread the message. Her GoFundMe page has already jumped by more than like $200 or $300 already just since this amount of time. And then the Cannabis Life Conference as well too went ahead and said, well, we'll match that $1,600 as well too. So now she's up to $6,400 in donations. She was trying to raise $10,000 on her best day, and she thought maybe she'd get a couple $100 selling lemonade if she was lucky. Aww. Well, she walked out of this day now with over $6,000, all the medical care she could probably, hopefully, well, from the cannabis side anyway, in consultation, need that size and research. It's great. Went ahead and shared that. She's got offers of products and a car and all that. I'm hoping it's just the tip of the iceberg. I'd like it to snowball. I'd love it if there was some rich benefactors out there who were down to help them because they're trying to raise about $2 million for research. which is much more than $6,000. Now, obviously, that doesn't come from one person, but they do have the GoFundMe page, which would be great to blow the fuck up.
That would be amazing.
Also, if you ever want to help them out, you can get a hold of me because I know how to help them and we can work something out. If any of the companies want to do anything, if Steve is in the building, what's up, Butter King? If you want to throw in on it, man, you can too. Just get at me. It's all good. You don't have to. I'm not calling out anybody specifically, but there have been a few people who have reached out to me and said, hey, if I wanted to do something or if I could help, how could I do more? And it's all just starting to snowball. What I'm really hoping is that Mom said at one point that she drives by Jim Patterson's dealership or lot with all these cars stored every day, taking her to the school that she wants to go to. And she's like, oh, I wish we could get one of those. I'd love it if Jimmy Patterson hooked them up with a car, not a cheap, not expensive one, but it hooked them up with a car so that this girl is safe. And because I've seen the little car, if she gets in one little fender bender with that, she's in a coma. It's a small little beat up little old Hyundai that's unfortunately not in great shape. And also, her other big dream, and it's funny that she was that out of all this, she found Dory, if you will, and us in the community. But her big dream is to meet Ellen DeGeneres. So I want to see if there's any chance that we can get this a little bit viral. If we can push it amongst the community.
Absolutely.
Let's try and see if we can. I'm not going to, make a big, huge deal about it, but cannabis community, weed working in strange ways. I get it. Jimmy Patterson and Ellen DeGeneres, they're not part of the cannabis community per se.
That doesn't matter though.
But this girl isn't either, and it doesn't matter that we are. We took her under our wing for that day, for those few hours.
Make light of the situation.
And cannabis community is huge. There's 183 bajillion of us around the fucking world. Well, maybe at least a couple 100 million anyway, minimums. So you guys come help us pitch in.
Yes.
There's 3 million people on the Facebook pages and all that stuff. If everybody threw in $1, if you could get $1 from all the people who like cannabis culture alone, we could exceed their expectations.
Totally.
Now, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to make that happen, but her thing on her GoFundMe is...
Find her GoFundMe. Don't need even just $1.
Yeah. It's help Jada live...
Life to the fullest.
Help Jada live life to the fullest is the GoFundMe page.
Right.
And the little girl deserves it. Otherwise, she's going to die slow and bad and soon. And with products and with cannabis, all of us from the industry, we all feel pretty strongly that they could probably offer her some help, some relief, maybe some improvement, maybe some get her life back, and obviously help her family. And so I think that that's a great thing to do, but we can also help other people, not just her, with the community in this small little rare disease that none of us have ever heard of. But think about it. Her brain's basically disintegrating.
At 10 years old.
Or 8 or whatever she is. I didn't even find a way. And that's not a good look.
No.
So I think that you guys really help. Please go help.
Help Jada live life to the fullest is her GoFundMe.
Yep.
Go donate.
Yep.
What's that? Jada, Jayda.
Jayda. Yeah. Hook her up. Let's see if we can connect her with Jimmy Patterson. Let's see if we can get her on Ellen. Let's get her on Ellen. Let's fulfill this girl's little Make-A-Wish shit. Somebody holler at Make-A-Wish for me, for her, because I'll do it tonight otherwise. But I think she deserves it. She's this little spark plug. She's accepted the Sarah McLachlan School of Music. Yeah. She's used to selling lemonade to donate or to raise money for protect wolves and shit like that. She's already a little hustler. You should have seen. Put the big bills up front. Adorable little girl.
Big bills up front.
So that people could see how much money they're raising. You want to get in on that. So help this little girl out. Save her life, would you? I mean, we're doing it with the Substitution Project, but that's the sad, tuggy heartstring moment. But there's fun parts of the weekend too.
There's always fun parts of the weekend. We had lots of fun. You can catch up on everything on the Canna Life Network.
CannabisLifeNetwork.com has all 14 hours of the broadcast. Go check out all the fun on there. Watch that. Jody's speech was incredible too.
Absolutely. Jody's speech is on there. Dana's is on there.
Multiple panels.
Multiple. There was a pet panel that I really tried to squeeze in here, but I wasn't able to, unfortunately.
Yep.
But speaking of fun, I did want to air something really, really cool at the end.
It's a Rob Moore cannabis cartoon featuring your boy Craig X, Neff, Squad Father, Tweedledoo, Blaudonio, D420K, The Alchemist, all kinds of people, Cody Van Gogh, Dabberman, and last but not least,
KushQueen. Okay, let's watch that.
And thank you very much, Rob Moore. This is going to be fantastic. He's going to Skype into my show. And thanks for having me, Cushy. go out with this.
We're gonna go out with this. So catch everyone's shows next week. You guys know when it is. I'm not gonna blurb it out right now. So
and Freddie at 4.
That's right. Watch the cartoon. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you next Sunday. Mwah.
Thursday's episode 101. Peace.
Welcome to Show and Tell Day. I'm your host, Greg. So what did you guys bring for Show and Tell today?
Well, I got Snoop Dogg and his crew.
Oh yeah? That's cool, I guess. Brought the new GI Remo with Roach Clip Grip.
Awesome. Dope.
GI Remo with Roach Clip Grip. New from Hasbro.
Does it come with a joint? Well, I don't know.
Is it supercharged?
I don't know.
How does it work?
Not really sure what a roach clip is, but mind you, I am an expert. Thank you. Expert man. Yes, I don't know what else I can say. And I also thought I could be like sort of emceeing a Christmas pageant or something like that. Because I'm always talking on a microphone. That was what I did back in the day. And be like, I don't know, Greg, or something like that. But it sounded kind of stupid. Loser. You suck. I wonder what I could do. I know. Maybe I can roll joints. I'm really good at rolling things. Leaping bag, sushi. They're well put together. Well, thank you. I don't know. I'm sure I'll be an expert at something, though.
Huh? What the? Expert my ass. Burning side, burning canoe. Expert my ass. I have a hall pass to see a Mr. Ed. Thanks, Andy Dapper and TGA Will.
Rob Moore sure is getting bullied this recess.
You dumbass.
Of course.
Oh my god. Hi, KushQueen. How are you?
Hey, give me that sub-cool lunchbox.
Here you go.
Get out of here, punk.
Okay, out.
Hit the bricks.
Bye-bye.